As it is written, the kingdom is within us. Come together and discuss the issues within the kingdom. Speak your peace. Speak the truth. For the kingdom is at hand. Kingdom Conversations.
Peace and blessings, peace and blessings, peace and blessings to the whole house, to the kingdom of the Israelites. Father, thank you once again for allowing us to come before your people to remind them. What are we reminding them, Brother C? To remind them that we are children. Somewhere in the book says somebody can look up that precept. Are we supposed to be as children when it comes to our Father? In the King James Version, the 66 books, there's 1,523 references to the word children. So in all of thy getting, get understanding, do you understand the role that we're supposed to play this hour? The role that we're supposed to have to our Father, that parent-child relationship, and the role that we're supposed to play when it comes to our children, the Israelites that's here in the Snakes and the Israelites wherever they are, the Israelite children in the UK, the Israelite children in Brazil, the Israelite children in Mexico, not the Spaniards. Make that clear, because you know how we get down over here. Hey, I made a rhyme. Check that out. I got bars. Anyway. What's the relationship with the children, Father? And Father, are we pressed in our minds that we as a nation, as we are growing into our nationhood, Father, that we have the mind to get back to the children and make them a priority? So we thank you for the sister that's coming on that's been pressing this into our frontal lobe. And Father, we thank you for yet choosing Israel, the apple of your eye. We also thank you for the Ruach HaKodesh, and Mashiach. Mashiach is the living word, the breathing word, and the word that was made flesh. The fuse is still waiting on a Messiah. Little do they know he already came in the form of Caesarea. That's the fused Messiah, Caesarea Borgia, the Zig Zag Man, a.k.a. the Hickey Heron addict and Greek god. That's who that was. That the book, somewhere in the book, y'all get that precept where they talk about another Jesus. Who is that? Another one. No, false pretender. He not Messiah. The one that the book say was hung on the tree. He's not that one. I can tell you that right now. Definitely not that one. Everybody's minds and hearts should be on a few things. You see what's happening on the earth right now? You see everything that's going on, and everything that's going on, like I've been telling y'all, is because of you. You got a whole contingent of nations in Psalms 83 that was against you off the rip. They knew your identity, stole your identity, and want to keep you blind. They want to keep us not focused on our children. I can tell you that right now. If they wasn't, then they wouldn't create these wicked bastard systems that do such. Oh, the United States is evil. United States of America is an evil entity. It's an evil entity. So before I greet you, before I greet the family in the chat, it's good to see you all. Thanks for joining in to your loudmouth, big mouth, old head. Brother C. Thank you, you all for tuning in. You could have been anywhere. NFL is on right now, and I'm missing my football guys. Yes, I do watch the NFL. I do watch the NBA, and I watch Major League Baseball too. I do, because our people still involved in that. And y'all don't know how they be dogging our people out. Prime time Deion Sanders, the paradigm college football, and they want that man to fail miserably. They can't help themselves. They falling over themselves. They want him to fail so bad they can't help it. At any rate, before I greet you, fam, like I say, you could have been anywhere. Thanks for jumping in. I want you all to greet the Sister White Society. Sister, come on in and greet the fam.
Shalom, family. Peace and blessings to you all. I appreciate you coming to talk about our children and the condition and what we can do to change that. And I ask that you just share this with somebody, even the people that you think might not be tuning in. Go ahead and share this out because it's important and we all need to hear this message.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that, sis. Appreciate that. So I'm going to go ahead and greet the fam like we normally do. My good brother Yash. Yash, hey, brother, how you doing? Hope all is well and that the Father's been keeping you and prospering you. Good sister Notorious Hebrew. Hey, sis, how you doing? Hope all is well with you. And everybody that's in the chat right now, I keep forgetting because I'm out of practice. Make sure that you greet each other in the chat. Only one that's going to love Israel is Israel. Now, they always talk about Chicago gangs and Bloods and Crips and how negative things are. You have an opportunity right now to greet your family and to love your family no matter where they are in the United States. I don't care if you're from St. Louis. I don't care if you're from California. You could be from Chicago. You could be from Montgomery, Alabama. You could be from Atlanta, Georgia. You could be from Detroit, Philly, Bmore, Phoenix, Arizona, LA, California. No matter where you are in the States and abroad, no matter where you are. If you hear and you support, you love our people, then I'm rocking out with you. And so you guys get in the habit of greeting yourself, greeting your family, because when you get to the wilderness or wherever you're going to be, when you see Israelites, you make sure that you greet them. Should be your normal standard operating practice. Son of Jacob, Shalom, brother. Peace and blessings to you. Hope you and your family are doing well. Let's see, Skeletor family, Shalom family. I haven't been tuned into this channel in a while. Yeah, we've kind of paradigmed. We're getting back to doing the bigger productions. But I told my sister White Society, and I promised her that I would go on and continue to uh, bring awareness to what's going on with this system and our children. And so I'm going to continue to go on and do those shows, and then I might jump on and do a show every now and again. But Salt of the Earth, you know the name is Salt of the Earth Productions, and what we normally were doing before we got into doing a lot of different types of shows, a lot of different shows, was ours was the big productions that were 2 and 3 and 4 hours, the documentaries, right, like the 400 years, Second Exodus, and things of that nature. And so we're getting back to that, which is taking us away from doing the normal day to day. Now, like the brothers jumped on yesterday with a bomb dynamic show about the dates and the timeline of creation. That was a beautiful show. If you guys didn't catch that, you guys go ahead and catch that, and hopefully it'll provide some edification for you. So, Skeletor fam, good to see you, man. Hope all is well. So you're in Brazil. I'm glad to hear that. My brother Tyce Rolla, I believe Tyce, you're in the Philippines, right? Hope all is well with you. It's good seeing you. Good seeing everybody. Let's see here. Let's keep going. Hey, Mr. Thorpe. Hey, Shalom, brother. Good to see you, man. Hope you're well. Hope all is well with you. Pam Yah Israel. Shabbat Shalom. Solidarity family. Oxy. Akoti Y Society. And my chat family. Good to see you, Pam. Good to see you. Peace and blessings to you, sis. Kalia Smith, peace and blessings. Shalom, peace and blessings to you. You're in South Florida? Okay, South Florida too. South Florida, I pray that the Father protect you and protect all Israelites that's in Florida. And that's in the Israelites in area, but especially Florida, because I want him to destroy Florida. I really do. I really, 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 really do. Um, and really, I want him to destroy everywhere where these entities have done our people harm. And so it looks like I caught everybody. Got everybody in the chat. It looks like so, sis. Let's do this. Let's pick up where we left off in our conversation that we were having just a few minutes ago, if you don't mind.
Yes. Before I do that, can we share? I want to share this Genesis 14 passage,
Okay.
because when I first came to talk to Salt of the Earth, and I want the family to know that everywhere I go, I talk about this thing that we've been talking about for over 3 times now. This will be our 4th time. But
Hmm.
when I first came to Salt of the Earth, I asked a question, using our, brother Abraham as an example. And I said, when, he had to go rescue Lot, he went and got 318 of his trained brethren, right, to go get Lot, the children, the families out. And so I want to go back to that, because I don't want to lose sight when we start the discussion about what this is and what's going on, the condition and what the actions are. I don't want us to lose sight of my original ask was, where is our 318?
Okay,
So
so do
I
me a
will
favor.
share. You want me to share?
Yeah, oh, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and share, and you give me the precept that you want. And reason being is because I'm glad you reminded me. I got a couple of precepts that I want to share too. So before we do any talking or any dialogue, I want to share these precepts. So you give me the one in Genesis that you're speaking of.
Genesis 14. If we go to Genesis 14, we can see the progression of events that took place. And even the fact that, he had to fight all these kings, one of those being Gomorrah, Sodom, the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, right? And so I wanted to bring that back up.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen in a second. Just give me a minute. Okay, so Genesis 14. I got the book of Genesis, chapter 14. I'm gonna share my screen. Give me a second here.
Not a problem.
And let's see here. Bible
Dr.
Gateway
Dr.
share.
Gary Christopher sharing in the chat, that is my father. So
Hey, Shalom, Doctor Gary Christopher. You do know that you have raised up the modern day Harriet Tubman, right, sir? And we appreciate you, and we appreciate the work that the sisters doing. Sisters doing a fantastic work for our people.
look, you
So
see
it's
what he
it's a
said. He
pleasure to
said,
see you, sir.
my dad
they
is
they
not playing.
they mixed in, sir. we all mixed in and mixed up. Okay, sis. So
Right.
I got the thing up, and I'm gonna click on. Give me a second because my mouse is tripping all of a
It's
sudden.
okay.
So Genesis 14.
Genesis 14. I tell him, Daddy, I'm from the south side of the Northern Kingdom, right?
Uh
We,
oh.
you know how we do things over here.
Yeah, that's up.
So, that's my father. Thank you, family, for greeting my dad in the chat. And I'm just fortunate to be able to do, have discussions like this, and my parents are able to participate. I'm grateful to the Most High for that.
All praises to the Father. Let me get the right window again, sis, because I'm jiggling wires on myself. Okay, so now we got it up. So now we're looking at Genesis 15. So let's see here. Which precept are you looking to read? And I'm going to let you
14.
read it. I'm not going to read it. Number 14.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, and so I have the New King James Version up. So if I could read from that, it would be good. And I
Okay.
just
You know
want
what? I can get the New King James version in this widget, I believe.
That's fine. That way
Uh,
I could just manage past the do's and the thous.
okay. Okay. Let me get to it. It would be in the ends, New King James Version. There it is right there. And you say Genesis 14.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're at Genesis 14. Lot's captivity and his rescue. Okay. Do you
Right.
want to start at which particular passage? It's on the screen right now for you.
I'm just going to start from the top so we can understand it in context. Okay,
Okay.
so here you have, and it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Sheddalamar, and I might not say the names right, y'all forgive me if I mess up names, king of Elam, and titled king of nations, that they made war with Bera, king of Sodom, Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemabar, king of Zeboam, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar. All these joined together in the valley of Siddim, that is the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings that were with him came and attacked the Rephaim at Eshereth Karnaim, the Zuim in Ham, the Emim in Shavah Kirithaim, and the Horites in their mountain of Seir as far as El Paran, which is by the wilderness. Then they turned back and came to En Meshpat, this is Kadesh, and attacked all the country of the Amalekites and also the Amorites who dwelt in Hezazon Tamar. And the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar, went out and joined together in battle in the valley of Siddim against Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, title of nations, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar. 4 kings against 5. Okay. Now, the valley of Siddim was full of asphalt pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled. Some fell there, and the remainder fled to the mountains. Then they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their provisions and went their way. They also took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods and departed. Then one who had escaped came and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Anar, and they were allies with Abram. Now, when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his 318 trained servants who were born in his house and went in pursuit as far as Dan. He divided his forces against them by night, and he and his servants attacked them and pursued as far as Hobah, which is north of Damascus. So he brought back all the goods and also brought back his brother Lot and his goods, as well as the women and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him at the valley of Shavah, that is King's Valley, after his return from the defeat of Shalomar and the kings who were with him. Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was the priest of God Most High. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave him a tithe of all. Now the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the persons and take the goods for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand to the Lord God Most High, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will take nothing from a thread to a sandal strap, and that I will not take anything that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich, except only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their portion. And so my context is looking at what was happening at that time, and even understanding that Abram and Lot, they had their issues. They knew that at some point they had to depart. And, Lot even went down into a land that he probably shouldn't have been in. We know that, right? But when Abram found out that Lot was taken captive, he didn't hesitate. He didn't ask nobody but the 318 of the trained brethren who were born in his house to go in pursuit. And that's on number 14. And so I wanted to bring that back around, because if we understand the ways that modern warfare take place, mental captivity, spiritual captivity, physical captivity, and how it is permeating the schools in capturing our children, and some of us are handing our children over we know we need to go and get them back. Okay. I talk oftentimes about a generation that rises up and doesn't know the Most High. Well, they're indoctrinated against the Most High. Make no mistake that, when you hand your child over to your enemy, they're going to teach them the same way they tried to force Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego by changing their names first, and Daniel, right? Changing their customs and foods, and then trying to give them their kingdom's education, which was in total opposition to our nation and the Most High and the education and the way that He wants us to train up our children. So I asked the question, where our trained brethren in our household, and that can be brothers and sisters, so that we can go and get our children back and take it very seriously what's happening to our children.
So, having said that, the call should go not only to those of us here that participate on this particular channel, but this call should be an alarm that goes out nationwide, ultimately worldwide, because this is not going on just in the snakes. We're hearing the snakes, the most of us here that come on this channel. But make no mistake about it, this is going on everywhere. So now the question becomes, and for me, this has always been a question for me. How do we get this knowledge and information and get this sister in front of all Israelite channels? And what I mean by all Israelite channels, I mean, even if you're not a part of the Israelite paradigm, right? Because this is something that we're all going to be held accountable for when we see the Creator, because the questions are going to be asked. And so the question that I'm asking is, what are each and every one of us doing with respect to our children when it comes to this situation? Because the sister can talk about all the horror stories that go on, but when are we going to change and become the solution? And I say we, it's going to take all of us, not just her. It's going to take all of us. Go ahead, sis.
Right. And I had explained before that I've been in this battle long enough to watch it escalate to the point of, where our children are losing their lives. It's beyond neglect and mistreatment. It's beyond academic miseducation. It's their very lives are at stake when they walk into these public facilities that are supposed to produce an education. They are targeted. And I don't say that, make no mistake, because I don't move with fear. So I don't say that to produce fear. And if that sounds like a fearful thing, we always have to question, well, the word says that fear has to do with consequences, right? So are we doing what we can to protect our children and fortify our households and families? And I usually get, system healers that'll come out and naysayers that'll come out, kind of like Tobiah Gosham, coming out and Sam Ballot coming out and heckling Nehemiah while he's building the wall. Like, why are you doing that? That's not going to work out. Do this instead. Or, nobody told you to do that. And I have to turn and ignore them because they're system healers. They believe that if they put forth the best engagement or the best practice or the best something, they can heal a system that has wanted us to be dead from day one, that has only wanted us to be a source of labor and monetary gain from day one. How, if the foundations be corrupt, what can man do? So instead of me advocating for the system to be healed, I'm telling everyone in the nation, we need to build our own, whatever that is, whether it's homeschool, hubs, pods, private education for our children, whatever that looks like. But we cannot continue to turn our children over to the U.S. system of education.
Sis, I want to ask you something, just in your experience, because and it's more of a rhetorical question, right? So, do you believe that they enjoy doing this to us? What they're
Yes.
doing to and to our children?
Yes.
Explain.
So there is a scientific theory. There's a couple of things that I want to highlight today. One of those things was used by the CIA called control by deprivation. Okay. And so you know how you see where they have these little rats in the lab, and they offer some the antidote, and the other ones they starve out or do whatever the tricks and gimmicks they're going to do on them to get the results that they're looking for. So you could just say that, if you control, deprive a certain group of people of their wants, needs, and desires, while giving the other groups around that group of people their wants, needs, and desires, there are effects that take place from that, and they're scientifically researched. Let me tell y'all, we've been researched beyond what you can even imagine. Okay. And so nobody can say they don't know what they're doing and the effects and the impact that it has on us as our body, mind, soul, and spirit, and our genetics. Okay, there's a field of science called epigenetics, where they've researched the ways that environmental factors have basically changed the DNA. Even though it was once said that, that couldn't happen, this, nurture versus nature, but there is enough scientific data for people to know exactly what they are doing to us and know how to turn the levers up. And this is a form of psychological, physiological warfare, and it's only happening to us in the manner of which it is everywhere we're at. And our children are the most vulnerable outside of our elders.
I want to ask the chat folks that's on right now, those who love Israel and those that don't. Do you believe what the sister just said? And if you do, put a seven up, because I'm of the opinion that this is why they do what they do. Not only the reason why they do what they do, but the idea that you get enjoyment out of doing this. Not only an enjoyment, but on the flip side, you want these people to pray for you, and you want them to forgive you. And so I need everybody that's listening, that's on the chat right now, to put a seven up. I'm gonna throw my seven up. I normally beat you guys. Please forgive me. And Doctor Gary, I saw your comment. We're gonna get back to that because that's an important comment. So we all agree, Lioness of Judah, and there's a couple of y'all I need to greet. Darlene Franklin, shalom, peace and blessings, sis. Lioness of Judah, peace and blessings to you. Hope all is well. They clone Tyrone. I'm gonna start that because that's an interesting concept. But yes, I do believe that they get enjoyment and they rejoice because the book says that they do. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to look at the book of Obadiah right quick. And that's
So
why I want to go ahead, sis. Go ahead. Go
brother
ahead.
C, the real question becomes, on this
Mhm.
day, do we enjoy it?
Hold that thought. Hold that thought,
Right?
because I believe that. Okay, I'm not going to answer that now. I'll answer that in a second. But that's a good question, because if I'm not going to say anything else, what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how to share my screen, and
Okay.
then we're going to go into that, because you blew my mind when you asked that question. So I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a great question. We'll definitely get into that. Let me read this precept, okay? I'm going to read these couple of precepts from the book of Obadiah. This is the book of Obadiah, and I'm going to read from the KJV. And this is the book of Obadiah 1, and I'm going to read from 11 through 13. Starting with verse 11. In that day, thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem, the people, even though thou was as one of them. Verse 12. But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother, in the day that he became a stranger, neither shouldst thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction, neither shouldst thou have spoken proudly in the day of their distress. Thou shalt not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity, should not have looked upon their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on the substance in the day of their calamity. So I read that for a reason. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I read that for a reason. Do you guys know that we are out of our captivity? But while we were in our captivity, they rejoiced, and they still do rejoice, and they speak proudly of themselves at the destruction that they have done to the Israelites. Now, sis, we can go into the question that you asked. Now you could ask your question.
So in the land of this captivity, right, where we see that they don't even count us as a whole human being, right? Human beings have fundamental rights that they don't have to advocate for. Why is it that we're constantly advocating for what's a natural right for other people? Okay? The right to be free, the right not to be subject to targeting and attack. So we have to ask yourself, are you really free? Right? And if not, then you'll realize we're at war. Okay. And definitely that means everything that naturally derives from us is subject to the same sort and form of oppression, the same warfare, and that is our children. Now, the Most High calls our children a reward from Him. We can't ignore that. If I hand my child over to the enemy every single day, knowing their pattern and history of behavior, knowing that they don't consider us as whole human beings, and you got entities fighting for so-called civil rights that haven't manifested yet
Mm,
for us, right? And we're saying these are our fundamental basic rights. We're born free, we should die free. Okay.
mm.
Then we have to ask the question, if we keep doing that, then what is it within that habit or conditioning or pattern of behavior that speaks to our faith in the Most High? Right? If I turn my reward that He gave me over to my enemy, then I'm casting my pearls before swine.
Literally.
It
Literally. Go ahead.
so brother C, when we had a talk before coming on live, I said, what is it going to take? Now, you could see by the number of people that even engage in these types of discussion that it's not a popular thing to talk about. You know, you'll get thousands of views when it comes to talking about our identity and going through DNA and all of that. Now, once we've gotten all of that information, which there's an abundance going out all day, what is it that we're doing to secure and fortify our households, our family, the reward that the Most High gave us, which is our children? And it's not a comfortable conversation to have at all. I don't like having to do it every day, right? But you know, this is the condition that we're in. This is where we're at, and now we need to take our feet shod with the word of peace, whatever that looks like, right? Pursuing what we need to do for our children and fortifying our households. We're not going to just arrive in the promised land without playing our role and mastering it before we get there and think that it's just going to suddenly happen.
That's right. That's right. And that's why I'm always on everybody's neck about what are you doing right now, and then what do you think you're going to be doing in the wilderness. I want you to look at this comment, because this is what we were talking about. And Dr. Gary put it succinctly in that he says that we may not enjoy it, but our lack of action would suggest we have come complacent. I think we have come not only complacent, doctor, but I think that for some of us it's so painful we don't even want to address it or look at it. And that's part of the complacency. I can say that with certainty that we don't enjoy it, but if we don't enjoy it, somebody's got to step up and do something. Somebody, and you know whose responsibility is? It's all of our responsibility. That's why I'm always saying that, okay, you know what? If a person doesn't even know that they're Israel and they love their people, I can rock out with them. Why? Because they love their people. That's the fundamental center, is that you love your people, because the Father is love. Now, whether you come under the full knowledge of truth of who you are, that would be great and excellent if you did. It would be excellent if our people, all of our people, would come out of the 50,000 denominations of that bastard religion, Christianity, which is really Catholicism. It would be excellent, wonderful, and great if they did that. But we know that it's hard for you to get stained glass out of your mind. Go ahead, sis.
And then people, it's like looking at the reality just straight for what it is, right? They give us a Black History Month with the shortest days in the calendar months of the year, and we go and throw a party about that, right? What is there to celebrate when our condition isn't changing? All of the data, that I've shared, from whether it's Forbes or whether it's the US Department of Education, I'm talking about the economists and every other field of so-called experts, have told you that we have not progressed. Okay. And if we feel uncomfortable having this conversation, think about how our children feel in their school systems for 6 to 8 hours a day. And then, by the time our children are, 7 to 9 years old, they're coming down with acute health issues, pulling their hair out, biting their nails, stomach issues. Some of you guys might resonate with what I'm saying, because it happens. They're sick. They don't want to go to school. They come up with 10 excuses in the morning of why I don't feel good and I don't want to go in this gate, and not able to articulate the warfare that is happening all around them throughout the day. That's all they can say is, I'm sick, my stomach hurts, and then they get in trouble. We got to stop that, right? Because those acute illnesses, if you map those out across demographics, they're happening to us. And if we believe that someone is coming in with their cape to save the day for us, it's not going to happen. I'm just here to tell you.
So
And
stained glass not coming to get us? The Zig Zag
no,
Man not coming to save us? Are you
Caesar
sure?
Caesar Borgia is
Cesare
not
Borgia not
coming
getting
through.
us?
No,
Oh,
not
come
coming
on. I don't
through.
know if trust you. Matter of fact, we need to stop this show right now. If I know that the Zig Zag Man, that hippie heroin addict, that love child looking like Christian Bale, is gonna save us. I know, because that's what we've been taught. He gonna save us. He gonna save us. He is. I know. Come on,
So
stop. Stop.
you're
Don't bust my bubble. He has to save us because it's written that way.
you you're letting Disney live vicariously through you,
Or
right? So
Charlie Brown and them.
Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown and them, Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. The Great Pumpkin was gonna come and deliver everybody presents on Charlie Brown and them.
and, and so Revelation 12:11 says that we conquered by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, and that
That's
we
the
did
book.
not love our lives enough so to fear death. And so I'm going to share about Charlie Brown. My son, who, when he was in public school, they had a celebration in class. He the only Black boy in the class. They was watching a Charlie Brown movie, and the teacher turned his chair to face the wall the whole time.
Wow.
This is when
Wow.
he was in first grade.
Wow.
Now, no one can make this kind of stuff up. And the kids were so disturbed about my little Daniel facing the wall while they got to watch a movie and have treats, that they went home and cried. Some of them had nightmares about the way the teacher treated my son. And the
Wow.
parents started to complain. I'm talking about non-Black parents started to complain. And you know what the school system told them? Mind your business. It's not happening to your kid.
Okay, but the school system wasn't able to step up and say, okay, we need to address this and fix this, what we're doing to this child. But
They
then you say,
could.
but then you say, oh yeah, we don't want CRT. Well, we don't want Black History. They went from CRT to Black History. We don't want Black History taught because it's going to impact our child. But then you got a wicked ass teacher doing this to a child. Really? Come
Yeah.
on.
And I've shared other stories, um, you know, about how in California, we have 3 strikes and you're out. That's part of the penal system, the strikes that came from that wicked crime bill, and we know who it impacted most, right? And I talked about the conditioning of our boys in schools, where the behavior code is attached to them. On a 3 strikes, you're out. If you do 3 things, you're out. Well, why are you telling them
Wow.
that, right?
Wow. Wow.
And
You know,
why
hold
do
on.
you
No, I'm going to interrupt you. That sounds like that's part of that school to prison pipeline where you condition the mind for 3 strikes in the school system. Then you condition that same mindset you're already going to have in your mind. Okay, I'm going to get 3 strikes as a 3 felonies and I'm locked up forever.
exactly? And they're teaching them that by first grade. Okay.
My father.
So they know where their position is. Now, I want to say that at the same time that they're rolling out the school to prison pipeline against our children, so that our children are straight pipeline through, right? This becomes an indoctrination, white supremacy boot camp training for the other kids that are watching the kids that are getting punished. Okay. So they're watching their little, friend getting punished in class, and what does that teach them about them? That they have privileges and immunities that Black children don't have.
But you know what though? That's how they okay. So when you listen to the heathen talk, their whole position is, and they'll deny it, but they will admit it. They know that they are in a position where they get goodies, giveaways, and great tidings because of their skin color, and because of that, they are taught that, and that's bred inside of their mind. That because they are white, and I'm gonna call it for what it is. I'm not gonna call them the heathen at this moment, because they are white children or Asian children or whatever they are. As long as they're not black, the white children are going to be raised up with the idea that, hey, you know what, I'm already above you, I'm already greater than you and better than you. Not only that, but you're beneath me.
Yeah. And the response, what my father, Dr. Gary Christopher, put up is what they don't expect from us, right? Like he said, our response should be that of an avalanche. We come down on anything and everything in our pathway. Now, they don't expect for us to do that. They expect for us to go crying and whining back to them. But I asked the question: how do you believe that you're going to get fairness and good treatment from a system that supports the opposite? You have to go back to the same people that are perpetuating these types of wicked practices, and then ask them to turn and check themselves and be fair. Where did they do that at?
Okay, so I see a comment that I'm going to address. Okay, so son of Yakub, we have to remember Job 9:24. Technically, this is their current kingdom, and ours is rising up as Jacob. Okay, so and I agree with you, son of Yakub. Part the part that rising, ours is rising up, Jacob. That part right there, we all should be having the mindset that we are rising. And how do you know if a person is actually rising? Not by their words, but by their deeds, right? Because I could say all day that I could tell you all day, do this, that, and the third, do this, that, and the third. Somebody should ask, hey, brother C, have you done any of that you're telling us to do? So yes, this is their kingdom, and our kingdom is rising. And part of that rising is us getting back, not past our culture, past knowing who we are, because we already know that. And if you don't know that, you can get those teachings online day in and day out. I'm not adjusting you now, son of Yako, but because you can get those teachings day in and day out, when does the action come in? When do you say, okay, and not you, I'm talking about us as a people. Or I'll look in the mirror and say, brother C, when do you put the book to action? Because it's clear that we need to be taking care of our children. And like the brother said, I'm going to go back to his response. Dr. Gary says our response should be that of an avalanche. Okay, so When is everybody going to start participating? Be active participants. That's my question. Because the sister put it up earlier. Hey, you know what? Where is that? Where's that? I believe I started starring them. There's a comment, I believe, Notorious Hebrew, that said that we should get at Phil from the Advice Show. And the sister why society should be on every black channel. I don't care if it has to do with sports. I don't care if it has to do with Who Shot John. I don't care if it's World Star. Doesn't matter. Now, the question is, and you guys already know the answer, why should she be on every Israelite channel, whether they Israelite or not? She should be on Christian channels. This shouldn't be this is not just an Israelite paradigm thing. And I want everybody to get that out of their mind first and foremost. Get that out of your mind that you have to wear on your lapel or your sleeve that you're Israel. A lot of times it's convenient for you to not to even say anything. Then you get to see how people act a monkey fool. That goes back to that. He's always talking about being wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove.
So we know how the Christian church likes to quote, the Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, right? But they don't talk about how Yeshua in Luke 4 said, today, this day, this scripture is fulfilled in your ears in Luke 4. So what does that mean, right? When, you set up a ministry based on all of these things you're supposed to be doing, but yet Yeshua said, this day, this scripture is fulfilled in your ears. How are we carrying that fulfillment out?
How are we and see, that's the thing. I don't think that, and I'm going to speak for myself, I don't think that we do this enough where we take the scripture and personalize it and ask ourselves the question, right? Ask that question. Well, what are you doing for the children individually? Now, not all of us have time, not all of us have money, but how are you supporting this endeavor? Because here's the thing: there's no group of people that on this earth that don't support their own. We're the only
Right.
ones. We're the only ones that don't support our own. Period. Why is that? Well, because the Father said he was going to destroy us. So we've been destroyed. Okay. We capitulate, Father, to you. Father, we capitulated to you that your book is true and that what you said you were going to do to us in Deuteronomy 28, the what is it, 28, 15 through 68, the curses. So now, I would ask everybody in this question, when are you going to be a blessing to the nation of Israel? Everyone. And part of that blessing is to bless the children and to help our children in this plight that they're in. There should be no Israel come what are we in 2024 coming up? 2023, 2025, 2024, 2025, there should be no Israelite in public food system.
What is it that they can gain as far as learning there? Do we really think about the fact that our enemies are teaching and providing an education to our children, and they're teaching them what they want them to know, right? Including about their identity. Okay. And so you'll see that even LGBTQ kids got rights,
Hmm.
right? They
Mm-hmm.
can go in and tell the teacher to call me he, they, them, it, whatever. But if our children go to school with their Afro puffs, it's a problem.
Hair.
You know. Hmm.
Hair. Hair is a problem. You can't wear blazer, you can't wear afro.
Right.
But if I'm a male, you could call me a he, you could call me a she they.
Right. And so in any state, I keep repeating this, in any state across this nation, you could walk into a Chinatown, a Little Italy, and a Germantown, but you can't have a Tulsa. And we want these same people who have nothing but steal, kill, destroy thoughts about us to then teach our children what? And why is that the golden standard? We have to change our thinking. And that's why today, like, again, I have the presentation established around warfare tactics and, more talking about risks and threats.
Okay, so that's a great segue, sis. Let's go ahead and go into your presentation. You can throw it up, and we'll share the screen, and we'll start talking about it. I'm looking at the comments in the chat, and I appreciate everybody that's jumping on. And I noticed that when we have shows like this, that not only participation is low, but viewership is always low. And I understand that. I totally understand that. But we'll do these shows anyway because ultimately, our family as a nation will get to the point where we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're just laying out the groundwork. We're
Yep.
watering that seed. Go ahead, sis. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yep, and that's what I was going to say. Even if we're planting the seed and we pray for it to multiply and grow, and that all the people that are in this chat are doing what they're called to do by the Most High, and to protect our children, then you know what? I mean, we don't take people along kicking and screaming. You know, um, I don't know if it's fear that stops people or what, but like I was talking to my father before I did this show, and I said, we're already laying on the ground, so how are we gonna fall off the bed? I saw that it when I was watching a movie about guerrilla warfare, and that was a profound quote. We're already on the ground. How are we gonna fall off the bed, right? And then when people say, "Well, I don't want to step on anybody's toes," well, then you know what? They toes ain't moving, obviously. Okay. We're not worried about stepping on people's toes that aren't moving because we have to remain in action. And so I wanted to talk to you guys about, threat assessment, because we need to start taking an assessment of who is a threat to us, right? And this is used in all types of security agencies, intelligence, and everything else. But I want to tell you a little bit of more because I always continue to talk about warfare and how we're in a war, right? So, a threat assessment for insiders is the process of compiling and analyzing information about a person or concern who may have the interest, motive, intention, and capability of causing harm to an organization or persons. Okay. Threat assessments for insiders is a unique discipline requiring a team of individuals to assess a person of concern and determine the scope, intensity, and consequences of a potential threat. That's what we're doing right here in this discussion today. Okay. These assessments are based on behaviors, not profiles, and behaviors are variable in nature. The goal of the assessment is to prevent an insider incident, whether intentional or unintentional, and there is no one size fits all approach to the assessment exists. Okay. Um, each assessment should be precise, thorough, and conducted in accordance with, of course, they're talking about an organization, a security organization. You can see we're at an official government website. It says it on the top: cybersecurity and infrastructure security. We see that right there, America's Cyber Defense Agency, and what they're talking about is threats. But we can look at this as a way to understand the threats that we face, right? Just stopping and thinking. Intervention strategies should be focused on helping the person of concern while simultaneously working to mitigate the potential effects of a hostile act. Now, that, of course, is going to be, in situations that they're talking about where there might be a mass shooter or something like that, right? They're going to go and check on the person. When we know who our enemy is, we need to make sure that we understand based on their behaviors what they're capable of, what their interest is, their motive is, and their intention, and their ability to cause harm.
I'm going to
Okay.
interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. I'm going to ask the chat this question, and I'm going to let you get back to it. Family in the chat, do you fully, truly understand who your enemy is? Put a 7 up if you do, and a question mark if you don't. Who is your enemy? Have you identified them?
And I want to know, do they know what they're capable of too? Right? Like, do you understand your by based on your enemy's behaviors, what they are capable of? And brother, see, I'm gonna be putting these links in the private chat so you can share them out, because for whatever reason it didn't link me. I'll not link to the comments.
I got it. I
Okay, I
got you. I
appreciate that.
got you. I got you. I got you. I'm going to put it up right now. I'm going to drop it in right now. Okay, so there's a link for you, family security inside threats. So now the question is, shalom and peace and blessings to those of you who I didn't greet, like My Too Much for You, AEP, Laura Rucker, all of you, peace and blessings to you. Hope you all are well. So does everyone fully understand who your enemy is? And you already have a history of what they're capable of. And they're capable of even more heinous acts than what's been documented that we even know of. Gator bait is the first one that pops into my mind every time. How could you take a baby and feed it to an alligator? Talk about you catching gators and you skin the baby alive, the baby screaming and hollering, and you catch gators with a child. How could you hang a woman because she complained about how you murdered her husband? You hang her, they cut the baby out of her stomach and then stomp on the baby's head. Yes, United States, the Father is going to destroy you people, and I can't wait.
And their intentions haven't changed. We see that every day, even though they manifest with different behaviors, right? And so, here is another one, right? Intel.gov. Okay. They conduct annual assessments within the U.S. intelligence community and about threats. They conduct annual threat assessments, right? And so if you go in here, you won't see very much about the threat against us. And why do you think that is, Brother C? Why aren't they discussing the threat against our communities?
Because they're the ones that's threatening the community. Why would they put up what they doing to you?
Right.
Come on now. Why would they put up that they capture if you have family members that's missing or you know somebody that's missing, chances are if they wasn't caught by one of these dirty, wretched white supremacists, chances are they was caught by the enemies and they doing experiments on them in some underground lab or some off-site lab. And I'm gonna leave that alone.
Right. And so we have to look at the ways that, their intentions show up through their behaviors. Again, here you got, I mean, when I say things have been researched, I don't want anybody saying, well, they don't know about it. Yes, they do. Okay. And so here you have again, this threat assessment report that can be viewed, and I'll send these. I'll have to come back and put these in the chat too, because I'm not keeping up with sending you the links. But as you can see right here, they're looking at communities. You don't see ours on there, right? What about the threats of white supremacist attacks on us? Okay. You see what's important to them. Okay. And so I just want to let y'all know again, there is no entity that first of all has enough power to come in and save us and protect us. We have to protect us and we have to fight for us. Now, the United States Secret Service is intentional on their reports around schools. And it's not just about safety. They, along with the DOD, the Department of Defense, the DOJ, the Department of Justice, and the other office that I just showed you, the Secret Service, intelligence departments, conduct a lot of surveys and give schools the framework to by which to see if there is a threat assessment. And who do you think gets reported as a threat, most likely with these guidelines that are handed by these governments that don't even assess the threat on us?
Black children.
Yeah. Okay.
Black
So
children. Black children.
these resources around threats in schools, around attacks, around all of this stuff that happens in law enforcement in schools and given to the public and the private sector, to so-called combat ever-evolving threats of targeted violence impacting communities across the United States, comes from the people that don't even have a report compiled about their assessment of threats on us. Now they do have a report. I'll show it to you in a minute. But I just wanted you to see for yourself, right? Um, again, we have to decide as a nation what we're going to do, for our children. Okay. This again, where the page is gonna be changing to, is what they share, the information that they share. I tell parents when they call me, and they said, "Hey, the school not notified me that they did a threat assessment on my son." I said, do know that that's going to be in Homeland Security's files forever, right? You do know that that report is going to make them a target, to be watched. Okay, because your child might have got upset about the condition they were in, and the threats that are upon them, and the very present danger that is upon them. Now they do a threat assessment on them, and it goes right into the DOJ, DOD, and the Homeland Security and the Department of Intelligence that they're a threat.
Which marks them and puts them on lists for no
Exactly.
reason. For no reason.
So I wanted to, just really talk about all of the entities involved. And again, you guys go back and, because there's not enough time for me to share what they're doing and what their comprehensive support of each other to do this in schools look like. So like I said, I want to share these links so you can go back and look. And even if you do state specific things, you can type it in and it'll tell you. And again, here is the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Justice Program. So with sometimes when you look in the states funding mechanisms, it'll show the DOJ has contributed a certain amount of millions of dollars. Well, for what? You probably didn't think to ask that question,
Can you do
right?
me a favor? Can you do me a favor?
Hmm.
Can you go to the search on this one and type in African American? Up top. Go back to the top and type in African American.
Looks like they only have something about families.
Okay, and
So
there's no
this
threat assessment. There's no
the,
threat assessment against for us that they say, okay, this is the assessment that we feel that is threatening African Americans.
no, I mean, they say better counseling for African American men, culturally proficient intervention, right? Young African American men in drug court, Black victims of violent crime, gangs, the social reality of American street gangs. You see, you have something that says about drug courts again, right? But it's not going to be anything that says we have been victimized and profiled and targeted by white supremacists in our neighborhoods, in this nation, in our schools, and let's deal with it this way. Well, you do have one thing, but it's so old and I'm about to bring it up,
Okay.
right? So for those of you, well, wait, hold on one second. I'm going to bring up they have the numbers. um One second. Okay, I am going to bring it up right now. Okay. So, I don't know if you guys remember in 1976, the Kerner Commission report on civil disorders. Do you remember that, Brother C? Have you heard about that?
Yes, I have heard of that, and I was a young, almost a teenager during that time. For those of you who know, I'm an old head, so.
Okay, so here's the abstract, and the report includes a detailed history of Blacks in American society and recommendations for improving the social conditions which foment riots. Also, of interest is a city by city discussion of the summer's disorders. Among recommendations, police community relations and administration of justice under emergency conditions are discussed. And they threw this in the trash, and it wasn't good for the president at that time to bring it up, and it stayed there, and there hasn't been a commission like this since. And why was that? Because it was too honest about what they were doing to us. Okay. And so if anybody can find a comprehensive justice, report, you know, that focuses on the attacks that we succumb to, the lack of safety, and how media perpetuates and exasperates attacks on us in the same way that the Kerner report did, please place it in the chat, right? And those list of recommendations never happened. And instead, the Great Society programs rolled out, kept rolling out through LBJ. Okay. Great Society programs, meaning Head Start, welfare, Medicaid, Medi-Cal, the food stamp program, transportation programs. They just rolled out a whole bunch of programs, but did not take seriously the recommendations. And how many riots have we had since the 1967? Right? And for those people that don't think that they know the conditions, this was all about the conditions. What are the conditions that are pushing blacks in American society over the edge? Okay. Why are these, riots and all this aftermath and what they call civil disorders taking place? What should those relationships look like city by city? Do you think that the administration was gonna pour out all the funds needed to do this work? It's a heavy lift, right? And so I'm gonna pause for a second just to, see if you have feedback. But if you would like for me to open the report, I can. But if not, we'll just move on.
I want to stay out of your way and let you continue to speak. And family in the chat, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, sister, well, I'll throw your. I have a banner with your information. I'll just put the banner up right quick, and then we can run that. If you want to be able to reach the sister, here's her information. It's scrolling at the bottom. Her email is that. Her website is that. Her YouTube channel is that. If you want to be able to reach her, someone said that they were going to contact you. Please, by all means, contact her because this is part of that threat assessment that we're doing right now. The threat against our children. Well, our children are our future. If we're not here during the wilderness trot, which I believe some of us will be here, but let's say that for the sake of argument, we're not here. What condition are we leaving our children in? And I'm not just talking about my children. I'm talking about all Israelite children. Because quite
Right.
frankly, you guys know I don't really care about other nations of people. I don't care about the Asians. I don't care about the Japanese, the Chinese, the Filipino. I don't care about Azov Regiment, the Ukrainians. I don't care about the Russians. I do not. Nor do I care about the Spanish that's in South America that took over South America with the Inquisition. The only people I care about on this earth is the Israelites. I'm just like Mashiach. Who Mashiach say he came for? Did he say he came for the church, or did he say he came not? He said, I come not but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He didn't come for nobody else. Anyway, I'm gonna stop before I get to yelling. I've been not yelling. I've been kind of calm. So I'm gonna go ahead and go on mute. You go ahead and rock out, sis.
So I remember watching Miles Monroe a while ago because he had some good, step by step actions that, I think a lot of people just kind of didn't really understand. Well, we didn't really understand, maybe some of us. And he said it doesn't matter where we're at, you need to understand the laws of that land. And I thought about Nehemiah having to have that king's letter, right, to continue his building of the wall, rebuilding of the wall. And I thought about how many times people had to search the annals of the kings that would have been codified, whatever that was their codified system, right? And so a lot of times when I'm having these discussions, people say, well, I don't want to know nothing about the US system of governance because it's, modern day Babylon and we just want it to burn. But yeah, you still live here. So, unless you pack up and leave, which there's nowhere where we're dispersed, that you wouldn't have to understand the way that they're going to try to rule over you through their system of government. And it's not that I'm sitting here saying, like, everybody go out and vote. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying understand the wicked codification that's used against you to entangle yourself in your households and your children from it, right? So I just wanted to, make that clear as my stance, in diving into these things. And I read through court cases and all kind of stuff. And if people understood the way that they codify our entanglement to keep us in a perpetual state of begging them, in a perpetual state of dropping our kids off to them, and all of these other things, you would be reading this stuff every day too. Because how can I make sure that my household and whoever I can reach is not entangled, or that we can get them untangled, right? And then go out and fight for more people. But for those of you that, and I'm bringing up the next tab, um, that might have seen this, that Houston planned to convert some school libraries into discipline centers, and was criticized for it, right? And everybody comes out initially and says, we know that, of course, Black and brown children are going to be the ones that are targeted the most. Well, that's a real thing to be worried about. It's a real concern, and I'm going to show you how they come up with the evaluation of who should be disciplined and how they're a threat. Okay. So if you guys don't, I just showed you all of those threat assessments and how, government entities look at them, and how that involvement then goes down to schools. Here you have it right here, Texas State, Texas School Safety Center. Okay. It's happening in universities too. I get college students that are calling for help, outnumbered and targeted, just trying to get their college education, higher education students that thought that because they went to some fancy college to get even their law degree or whatever degree that was, they were not going to be targeted, right? And then they face a very present danger right in their face, whether it's in their dorm, or whether it's on the campus, or whether it's in the lunch courts, wherever that may be. And I need us to understand that wherever we're at, it could be in the United States of America, South and Central America, abroad, it doesn't matter. We need to understand the warfare against us. And I think we talk about it a lot, but we can't point to what exactly it is. And I'm hoping that I'm helping to point to exactly what this is. Okay. So as you can see, that, behavioral threat assessments and management for educators and administrators, right? So they talk about what it is and what it is not. And you know who developed this for them? Like I told you, the DOJ, the DOD, and Homeland Security. And they heavily invest in K to 12 schools systems, and also higher education school systems, to make sure that everybody across the board understands this framework. Okay, so they implemented and created the threat assessment process in schools to have a clear idea of purpose, capabilities, and limitations of the assessment, what it is and what it's not. Okay, so it's used as a fact based investigative approach to determine how likely a person is to carry out a threat of violence. Now, notice they didn't say a school shooting. So I don't want people thinking this is only in the case of school shootings. No, it's not. It's being used in schools when children are disruptive. Okay, we'll call it, that's the term they call it. Okay. Um, it is not a simple checklist of warnings or red flags used to remove a student from school. But again, who are the people that are using it and how are they applying it? Right. A means to identify, assess, and manage individuals who are at risk for violence against themselves or others, and it's not a means to label a student as a troublemaker and enact consequences. Well, I will tell you right there, that's a lie. Because there was a little young man, one of ours, who was locked up for 6 months with no charges, and they were just holding him to do a psychological evaluation because he got upset at school. Okay. And I went to court and talked to the probation officers assigned to him, and also this team of psychologists that were assigned to him, and none of them looked like us. I'm sitting on Zoom with him locked up, where he has to look at me through Zoom to talk about him. And by the time, I told them all of these criteria that you guys are saying that he needs to meet in order to be released, our community is going to meet all 9 of them. You guys, we don't need y'all help to do none of this. And the judge said, we go get him. The day that it was court, the judge called the officer and said, release him now. Okay. And she said to us, I'm so glad you came to advocate, because I send children just like him away every day and they have nobody to come and intervene. They have nobody speaking up and saying, we're going to take care of this. You don't have to, system doesn't have to do anything. She said, because I would just let more go if that was the case. And I left there with a bittersweet feeling, because I was, of course, elated that he was let go. But just the thought in my mind of how many did she send away, and how many are going to come that are going to get sent away for no reason at all besides the fact that they need to be observed and assessed. And where are the qualified attorneys saying this is unconstitutional? Well, they weren't there, right? Matter of fact, his public defender didn't even show up. Okay. So, this happened at school first, and then it led to his lockup behind a juvenile facility and ultimately released. But if we weren't there, if I wasn't speaking up on his behalf, if I didn't take the time to talk to probation, talk to the other people, and really clarify that the community was going to come in and meet the 9 criteria, um, of whatever the troubling behavior, to help him be able to communicate effectively and all these other things, then that wouldn't have been able to be done. So advocacy is about interceding on behalf of the life of someone else, right? And so if we look at, the way that they do, um, to distinguish between an individual who makes a threat versus one who poses a threat, they have these 4 areas that all of them use: identify, inquire, assess, and manage. Okay. And so I want to take you to what I have created for people to use the same criterias to understand what's happening with their children. I will pause before I go to that to see the comments in the chat.
Looking at the comments in the chat, I don't think there's been that many. I think everyone's been paying pretty good attention to the information that has been coming out. Here's one. Here's one by our sister Notorious Hebrew. Bnei Israel has started an Israelite defense firm. Sis, if you could get some more information on that and put a link up, I'll put the link up to what that is. And the reason why I say that is because I'm not out there in the YouTube streets really checking for other channels now, because I've gotten to the point where it's okay. We've got enough information, but this is good information that the whole house can use, right?
I did reach out to him when I found out that he started that, and I offered to be of support in any way that I could to talk about the condition of our children and educations, because a lot of times we have, issues that are being dealt with from an adult standpoint, but there's a lack of understanding when it comes to what's happening with our children in schools.
Okay, so you reach out to them. Did they reach back to you?
No.
Okay, Dave. Notorious Hebrew, do you have access to Beniah and his team, the brothers over there? Because this is very important. Um, Contrary to what anyone may think, our children are very, very important. So them being protected and us coming under this knowledge that we're getting, the whole house of Israel should have this knowledge. And it doesn't matter what channel it comes from, or the sister don't even have to say, "Hey, you connected with SOT" or anything
Right.
like that. Because I'm not. Our channel's never been monetized, so we're not concerned about clicks or views. We just love our people. That's it, and that's all.
Right.
Never have been concerned about that. Now, it would be good to get support for the work, but we never really ask for that, because that's just something that we don't do. But it would be great to get support. All I'm asking is this: if you have access to anybody's channel, or if you have access to larger platforms, get this sister and her information. The website is streaming on the bottom. Her email is streaming on the bottom. Get her and connect with them. You don't have to even say that you see them on Salt of the Earth or anything like that. Just get her in front of them so that she can disseminate the information out that she has. Because what we're being taught and trained is, we're being trained to really think. At the end of the day, we're training our minds up to know that we're in a war. And a threat assessment is something that someone is in war thinks about, right?
Right.
So, sis, I'm gonna let you have the floor back. Hold on a second. Let's see. I know someone who does. I will try to get it. Please do. Um, please do. Because that's important. Let's see. I see a question here. I'm trying to figure out: are we to continue taking our children to them and expecting a different result? That sounds like the definition of insanity right there. And so I know it's rhetorical on your part, sis. That's the definition of insanity, where we keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you expect something different to happen. Where you keep taking your child to public fool, and you expect them to not treat your child like they're a piece of garbage, or even acknowledge your child, or even speak to your child, or put your child in the corner and have them face the corner while Charlie Brown is playing for the rest of the children.
And when that happened, again, my son was in first grade. He is now in seventh grade. Do you know how many years it took me to undo that harm? Right. Um,
You
and
probably still
so
working on that. You
I'm
probably
still
still working on that. I bet you that.
yes, right? He's 12 now, right? I put the link, Brother C, to where I was gonna show us how to conduct our own assessment in the chat because I couldn't get it to share.
I believe I
So
just dropped it. I believe I just dropped it in the one from Canva.
yes, people can look
Yeah,
at that.
yeah.
That's fine too. But if you
Okay.
could bring it up, that would be
Okay.
good because for
You
whatever reason it won't let me.
okay, let me click on it and see what happens. Um, I get to jiggling wires. I'll be to blow something up. You better stop.
Well, the family know we'll be right back with you if it.
Well, and I don't tell the family what field I'm in, because they'll be like, "Oh, wait a minute, not that guy. He can't be doing that, because he jiggling wires on his own self, be taking his own self out the box."
Right.
I want to put this comment up. I want to put this comment up because the fam is coming with great comments, and Sister Born Board. I appreciate that comment. And so I'm gonna put this comment up that the sister says we'll never change them, period, or their system. The only resolve is to remove them, remove us and them, in more ways than one. There, 2024, sometime 2025, there should be a report that goes out that says all Israelite children, so-called African Americans, so-called Negro, the color, the blacks, have removed themselves from public food. And they say they homeschooling online or they home training, home teaching their own children under the auspice of the people that love and care about them.
Yeah, and I like that she says we will never change them or their system. Okay. I need that to resonate with all of the system healers, right? We shouldn't be trying to heal the system. We should be trying to make sure our children are safe and are raised up in the admonition and the way of the Most High, right? And so, like I said, there's always one in the crowd that, well, if we do, and I asked the question, how many generations have already tried to do that? Did Brown versus Board of Education fix anything? You know, since
No.
people like to go to that like the golden standard, you know,
Nope.
even though there's several cases that have, you know, taken hundreds of cases that have been heard in the courts after that. But my dad often encourages me by saying, I'm not Mr. Brown, right? So
Mm.
when they throw Brown and versus Board of Education and about integration and all of this other stuff, my dad has always said, I'm not Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown did what he want to, and I do what I'm supposed to do with my children. Okay. And so, you know, we need to be mindful of the narratives that come out against us. Any other group of people can form a homeschool hub, a, you know, association, and all of these private entities. But when we say, you know what, we are going to commit to privately educating our own children, you guys have proven that you can't or don't want to do it, then guess what? We start getting attacked and told that's segregation. You guys are, yeah.
Yeah, but our biggest detriment, one of the biggest detriments, but we weren't in the position where we are now, and I'll explain that position in a second. But our biggest detriment, the worst thing that we could have done is to become fully immersed and integrated with this system. We could have been a part of this system, another nation inside of a nation, which we are, and so we need to come under that realization. We're a nation within a nation. And so we need to be operating as such. We had our own banks, our own transportation systems, our own airlines and airports. We had everything. We had our own sports systems. We had our own uh, basketball teams. We had our own football leagues. We had our own baseball leagues. What happened to the Negro leagues and why? They undermined you because you were ultimately going to be better than them, and you were better than them at the games that they invented. But then they looked at that and said, okay, we need to destroy that because not only are they going to be better than us, but we can get their nickels too. We can get their shekels too and put them in our pocket. Integration was the worst thing that ever happened to us. You should not be, if you're thinking about integration right now in 2020, 2023, 2024, you out your rabbit ass mind because here's why. Your mindset should be, okay, forget about integrating. I want to do my own thing. I want to do my own thing. Your own thing is not just for you to prosper, it's so you can leave something for your children. If you don't make it to the wilderness, what you gonna leave them? What kind of condition and state you gonna leave your people, the nation? Anyway, I'm starting to get upset again.
It's an upsetting
I'm,
dilemma. It's an upsetting dilemma, but we can't pull back just because we feel uncomfortable, right? This is the kind of discussion that we need to have together and come up with solutions. And, you know, my parents are in the chat. I didn't just listen, I come from a long line of educators. I worked in the public school system, so I understand the ways that we try to look at this from every angle and what can we do, and even if we just try to save some, maybe that will work, and all of those things. And you know, ultimately, me watching my parents homeschool and them showing me exactly what it took was that solution. And they're in the chat and they've offered to consult with any of you that need support in how to do this at home or whatever. So, I'm offering my parents that offered me wisdom to you all, right? And this is a generational battle. And so, brother, see, I don't know, I can try to get this bigger.
It looks pretty good on the screen right now, sis.
Okay, so let me
It looks
see if
good.
you like don't jiggle nothing.
Well, I have it up on my screen. I was ready to put it up on my screen, but I saw you had already shared it. So I'm like, okay, we'll rock
Right.
it that
Okay.
way.
So this is just, my theme. And I like to, like I said, this is not the Rainbow Coalition. When they see me or they hear my name or whatever I do, I'm very targeted in my approach and I tell people what it is. This is who I came for. This is who I support and advocate for. And I'm not backing down off of that. Okay. There have been several attempts to try to get me to be more diverse and inclusive. And I'm like, no, because then who is going to fight for the children that look like me? Right. That's going to water it down. I'm not going to do that. So I wanted to go to the threat assessment overview. Like I said, we can do our own assessments. Okay. So as you see, threat assessment is a process of formally evaluating the degree of the threat and describing the nature of the threat. Okay. And threat assessment is a fact based systemic process designed to identify, inquire, assess, and manage potentially dangerous or violent situations. A key goal is to distinguish between an individual who makes a threat versus one who poses a threat. You have valid concerns, we all do, about the quality of education that your children receive in traditional schools, particularly when it comes to issues such as systemic racism, oppression, unfair treatment, racially targeted attacks, child sexualization. We haven't even talked about that, and discrimination. Okay. By using the identify, inquire, assess, and manage framework for threat assessments, we explain the importance of homeschooling and keeping children out of failing schools that perpetuate these issues. Okay, I'm gonna let it load all the way. So let's break it down. Identify, inquire, assess, and manage. Okay, I'm giving you guys a solution. Okay. Um, Let me go ahead. Number one, identify the issue. You should identify the risks associated with the current education system. There is a substantial body of research and evidence suggesting that public district schools perpetuate systemic racism and discrimination, which can negate, I'm going to let it load and then I'll read it, okay? Which can negatively impact the educational experiences and outcomes of children, okay? I showed you some of that research, right? And how to find it, looking at the data, right? That the National Education Agency shares. They're required to do that in each state by law, okay? So, number two, inquire about, remember we're talking about that framework. Inquire, right? Inquire about the specific concerns. Consider the specific concerns you have about your children's safety and education. Reflect on whether your children experience discrimination, lack of their identity reflected in school curriculum, and or unequal treatment in current schools. And we know that that is, yes, they do, right? This will help you to pinpoint the reasons why homeschooling is a better option. Okay. Let's let this other one go ahead and load. Number three, to assess, right? And so assess the benefits of homeschooling. Oh, let me load it, let it load all the way. Understanding the potential benefits of homeschooling and addressing your concerns. Okay. Homeschooling allows you to have more control over your children's education, enabling you to create a curriculum that is congruent to your values and beliefs, and it provides an opportunity for you to create a safe and supportive learning environment that nurtures your child or your children's individual needs and encourages critical thinking. That's another thing. Schools dumb our children down, right? They don't enter the way they come out, they enter worse. Okay. Um, and so we're going to go to number 4, right? Which is manage. Manage the transition. Develop a plan for managing the transition to homeschooling. There are numerous resources, support groups, and online communities available to assist in homeschooling your children effectively. Explore various homeschooling methods, right? Curricula, and local homeschooling networks. Address any concerns you may have about socialization. I hear this frequently. I'm going to let it load and then I'm going to talk about that, right? There's a lot of times where people will say, you know, your children are not going to be socialized because they don't go to school with their peers. And I said, well, what kind of socialization is happening in public schools? And why would I want my children to partake in that level or that kind of socialization? Right. And so we need to rethink the way that we've been conditioned this, when people will throw out these narratives about the social aspects of, when we homeschool our children as if they're going to be socially awkward. But what I find is the actual opposite. My children are able to be well rounded with wisdom and understanding. And I think I used this example or this model before that, we have 30 to 31 days in a month. There's 31 proverbs. They know when they wake up in the morning, the first thing they have to do is seek wisdom. If it's today is the first, they read Proverbs 1. If tomorrow is the second, they read Proverbs 2, right? And apply that to their day, right? Using wisdom. And so, there's a lot of things that, are appropriate socialization, and those environments are not, especially when you have the component of child sexualization, which I haven't went into, but brother C, I'm more than willing to cover that on another day. That's happening in the schools, right? So you need to manage the transition. Develop a plan for managing the transition to homeschooling. There are numerous resources, support groups, and online communities available to assist in homeschooling your children effectively. Explore various homeschooling methods, curricula, and local homeschooling networks. Address any concerns you may have about socialization, and be assured that there are many opportunities for social interaction outside of traditional school settings, such as co op groups, community organizations, and extracurricular activities. And I have to say that this is our charge as a nation. Where are those networks? If we don't have them, we need to create them. Where is our framework of, like, maybe giving examples of things that you can teach first, second, third, all the way to 12th grade, the curricula, right? The standards and curricula. We don't have to use the world's curriculum, right? To teach our children. Where is this information at? How can we gather those resources and come together and share this information, right? Where are those opportunities for our children to meet up with other Hebrew children outside of, their homeschooling hours or what they do, right? I don't want anybody walking away thinking that managing this transition means bringing the public school into your home. You know, those types of thoughts are a level of conditioning that you have to start breaking down and getting away from. If you are going to homeschool, don't bring the public school and all its practices and everything else into your home, because it's a different environment by which children can learn and thrive in a different way. And so you can use the freedom that you have to be able to provide the education. I go back to Deuteronomy 6, the Shema, right? Teach these things when you rise, along the way, right? And when you lie down, right? When you're in motion, and then have them on your door frames, right? Post them everywhere, right? That's the kind of thought that I have when it's like we are in motion, teaching our children while they're in motion. And yes, some assignments, of course, they have to do sitting down, and I get that, but they're not confined to a box of a school room, sitting in a chair 6 to 8 hours a day with people that they know and can perceive hate them, don't want to see them successful, right? And so, looking at these four things um, that are along the lines of the threat assessment, what they look at, right? And how to mitigate those threats. So, by using the identify, inquire, assess, and manage framework, you can gain a comprehensive understanding of why homeschooling is a viable and beneficial choice for your child. This framework empowers you to take an active, okay, not a I want to call and complain to my neighbor, an active role in your children's education, and helps protect your children from racially targeted attacks and oppression, systemic racism, and discrimination in schools. And we know it's happening. Now, this link that you shared, um, Brother C, people can take that link to this presentation and share it however they want. I created this for us, for the people, for us, right? And look, print it out, create it, talk as a family about it. I'm just saying do something.
I'm gonna put the link again in the chat. And like I said, this our sister is an awesome resource, and it doesn't matter where the information is coming from, because I noticed this about Israel right now, and and prayerfully, the hearts and minds of men and women are changing to blur the lines of, if you're not with this camp or with this group or with this set or with this clique, if you're not from this area or that area, that we can't we can't congregate and do what's right amongst Israel first, because we're supposed to be the light. We're supposed to be shining the light. We're supposed to be the vanguard, the leaders, not the boule, not any one particular camp, not any one particular entity. It's us as a nation, as a group. And I wish and hope and pray that this information that the sister has gets disseminated to all channels where our people are, because it's all hands on deck. And it's important that all of us be participants in this. All
Right,
of us.
right. And maybe, with this information being shared, there might be someone in that group that has a curriculum that they've developed, or that is willing to educate children at a certain grade level for so many hours a day, right? We all can come together and do this. Now, I said that my lane of expertise is law, policy, and codes, right? I'm entangling people from the systemic legal aspects of this, and often have to fight battles that I really, never even imagined that I would be here today, right? Knowing the things that I know about what's happening to our children. And I think like, wow, it can't escalate much further than this, you know. And so that's why I make this appeal, and hope that people take it seriously. And I think that at this point, like, I don't have anything else that I want to share, because again, this is a lot of information to share in this one setting. And so I want to allow the information that I did share to process. And if people have questions, maybe they can, ask them. Or I don't know if you want to allow people to jump in or what.
Yeah, if folks want to ask questions, you can go ahead and type it in the comment section, and we'll post it up. And I'll post up some of the comments that I've seen. Uh, our sister Masanama, it is written, says, I use the system to my benefit by encouraging my son to complete his schooling at home. He graduated 2 years early with special honors. And I would say that this is probably the norm for our children when they're homeschooled, because because they're allowed to really tap in to what the Father has put inside of them anyway, right? And so I would say that congrats and job well done to you, sis, according to what the Father pressed in you to do. However, what I would say is that this is probably more normal than what we realize. And what it's also saying is that your child wasn't subjected to being harmed, and then they can focus on studying, not what they teach in public school.
Right, because my daughter, because she's in the right environment, and thank you, sis, for sharing that, because there was actually one other thing that I wanted to share about the epigenetics, and she just reminded me that I wanted to share about that. But my daughter is also that person that I utilize a virtual public charter school, right? Like I want to just, like I said, Revelation 12:11, we conquer by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, and we do not love our lives so much as to shrink back from death. I'm a single parent, okay? I don't have a lot of resources, and I fight this fight, make sure my children are fortified and educated and safe, and then go out and fight for other children based on the legal knowledge that I have. Okay. And so, I hear a lot of things in the way of excuses, and I usually just think of, well, like there's a lot of us that are just doing it. We made our sacrifices, and we know what's important. It's a priority that our children are safe, and all of the children that are in the environment of their home, learning with people that love them, are going way far and beyond whatever happened in public school where they're hindered from thriving. My daughter is 17. She will graduate in a few months with an associate's degree and her high school diploma. Okay. So she went to college and high school at the same time. And these are limitations, though, that they set on our children. They do not give them access to all of them. And then there are some people that'll say, well, my kid had access. Well, yeah, you talking about 30 out of 100, a third. Now, we're not feeding the talented 10th pipeline, okay?
Hmm.
And
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you touched upon that. Go ahead and rock that, because I was gonna ask that question, and anytime I could throw them under the bus, I will. The NAACP, the Black Caucus, the Talented Tenth, the Boule, all of them should be damned to hell for what they've done to our people. Because you are the enemy. You are the enemy, Boule. I'm putting it out front street because I don't give a damn. You are our mortal enemy more so than the heathen is. Why? Because you say you're beholden to the king and you align yourself with them, and you have put us in a condition. You have helped put us in a condition worse than what they did.
if I could just talk about all of the court cases that I've read where their names were mentioned and the stance that they took, you know, it was in total opposition to us and our ability and our upward mobility. Okay. And reading that on court documents, I'm like, wow, you went before the Supreme Court or the Superior Court and told them we ain't nothing, and that we don't know what we talking about when we're out here saying, you know, there's an attack on us. And it's sick. And so thinking about the elitism even within those circles and the talented 10th, and they only want the cream of the crop to rise up and then be conditioned to do what they're doing now. But what about the masses, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But okay, so the examples that we have of homeschooling, right? That's enough to suggest that, okay, if we did this in mass, we would have this much success,
Right.
because it's astounding that, and it should make sense to everybody that if we homeschooled in mass, that we're actually creating the next class of leaders. But not only that, but we're giving them a step up where they can actually compete on this world stage, not just limiting them to the box that they get in public school system, because it's a dumbass box in my opinion. You come out of public school, you come out of public school versus going through homeschooling by someone who loves and cares for you. You're going to have a leg up on this society.
And there you have it right there. You said the reason why these elitist entities fight against that, right? And so back to the threat assessment. Look at people's behavior. The audio ain't matching the video. Okay.
Mm.
Right. And
Mm.
so, we can't continue to succumb to deodorized words. Like, where's your action? Right? Where is your action? Where is your commitment? And how are you financially investing in our ability to be self-determined? Because we see the donations coming out in millions of dollars a year to
Mm.
organizations, right? And then we look at our condition and things aren't matching. You're getting
Mm.
millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, and anybody can go and check their 990s and see how much the organization got, and how much the presidents of these organizations are being paid in salary, and their top employees. Okay. And
Mm.
I encourage you to do that. Go check the
Mm.
990s, right?
Mm.
And see who's supporting them. And are those people really looking to change our condition?
Mm.
You know, so
Mm.
brother, see why you get me started on that? I this
Well, because they need to be called out every chance they get. The NAACP is always, and the sister Born Bull brought it up earlier, and everybody's always, and it's these politicians, the talented ten, they always talk about, oh, well, what about this group over here, or what about this group over there, or what about the Asians, or what about the brown people, or what about the Hispanics, or what about the indigenous people that got their hair cut off when John Brown and them wasn't here. It's always everybody else, but how come you never petition for us when you in them circles? Have you been paid off? Have you been bought to say, okay, we're gonna include everybody else? To hell with it, to hell with them people over there. They're not part of the talented 10th group. They're not part of our dumbass Mickey Mouse Club.
right. And so, again, if you're in this continuous environment of a lack of change in conditions and only worsen conditions, when you have children, you can actually start to believe that it's a genetic thing and not an environmental thing. And this is what I was talking about when I said epigenetics. Go and research it for yourself. Look at the research that's already been done on the DNA. Okay. What is epigenetics and how does it relate to child development? Why are they studying this in child development? I told you guys, they researched us enough to know what the issues are and to know how to, solve for them, right?
Okay, but hold
Um,
on a second. Let me interrupt you now. Okay, so can I want
yeah,
this to be in everybody's frontal lobe. Now, they've been studying you from day one. They've been experimenting on you from day one. They've been watching you from day one. They take everything that you do and they monetize it for their own good. Our language, our vernacular, how we dance, how we move, how we speak, everything that we do has been monetized and weaponized against us. Now, my question to you all is this: is that by accident or is that by purpose? And not only is that the question, but do they know something about us that we don't?
of course they do. Because in the journals of pediatric medicine and kinesiology, it shows that our children are born advanced and with capabilities that other children don't have. Okay, so when you heard Pharaoh make that edict and the midwives came back and said, they're not like us, they meant that and they knew it then. Okay. And so if you want to do a search in the Library of Congress, the Journal of National Medical Institute of Health, Journal of Pediatrics, and the Journal of Physical, Education, I think medicine or kinesiology, you will find clear evidence that they have to show that our children come out of the womb advanced. So I want you to think about that when you place your child in an early childhood education program, is that going to hinder their progress or help them to thrive to their full potential? Right? Because we notice a shift after 2 or 3, and that's typically when children enter daycare or some other facility.
That's
Okay?
when that's when they get their filthy, grubby hands on our children.
Right? And they know from the research that I just talked about that this is what happens, right? And so, we have to know. And we can't change their behavior and we can't change their system, but we have to know, right? We have to know. And we have to change our behavior. And we have to study to show ourselves approved. And we also need to know that faith without works is dead. Okay. So if we believe in the Most High, and I saw one of the sisters put in the chat that it was a sacrifice, but she had to trust the Most High to show her the way. Then, if we say that we believe the Most High is who He says He is, then we'll put our faith that He'll give us the wisdom to show us the way. Right?
Indeed. I'll
And
put the
that,
comment up. I'll put the comment up that you referenced. Go ahead, sis.
yeah,
It's on the screen.
she's right. I had to do the same thing. I had to get, even if you have to lay prostrate in order to get a solution. That's what I did. I had to lay down and pray and just seek the Most High. Please provide me. I'm a single parent. I need to know what to do. Please provide me with a way to educate my children from home, because I knew I could not send my son, especially, back into their schools, right? They had already began a work to obliterate his spirit and his mind and his identity. Okay. And, people say, well, I'm just going to go and tell the principal off. Okay. That's going to work for how long? Okay.
10 minutes. The
Right.
while you telling that person off, and they like, okay, yeah, okay, oh yeah, okay, and then when they close the door, okay, we're gonna treat them 10 times as worse now.
But they're going to train your child how not to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this is coming from me who worked on the inside of public school districts. They're going to train your child how not to tell you. Okay. And even if you say to your child, I want you to think about that. Even if you say to your child, you can tell me anything that happens, if you tell them that in the morning and at night and on the weekends, but they're in this environment where they're conditioned not to do that way more than they're at home talking to you, who's going to win? Their children. Okay.
Damn.
So I wanted to just talk about this real briefly and see its link to child development. Epigenetics is an emerging area of scientific research that shows how environmental influences children's experiences actually affect the expression of their genes. This means the old idea that genes are set in stone has been disproven, because nature versus nurture is no longer a debate. It's nearly always both. Okay. And as DNA technologies have increased and enhanced, they're now able to issue these reports. So that's why it says emerging area, right? Before, we didn't have all of the DNA, or it wasn't known that we had the DNA capabilities, right? So during development, the DNA that makes up our genes accumulates chemical marks that determine how much or little of the genes is expressed. The collection of chemical marks is known as the epigenome. The different experiences children have rearranged those chemical marks. This explains why genetically identical twins can exhibit different behavior, skills, and health and achievement, right? And so epigenetics explains how experiences can have lifelong impacts, right? So when I start talking about school issues, some people automatically can relate to something that happened to them when were in school, right? These genes children inherit from their biological the genes children inherit from their biological parents provide information that guides their development. For example, how tall they could eventually become or the kind of temperament they could have. When experiences during development, rearrange the epigenetic marks that govern gene expression, they can change whether and how genes release the information they carry. Thus, the epigenome can be affected by positive experiences, such as supporting relationships and opportunities for learning, or negative influences, such as environmental toxins or stressful life circumstances, which leave a unique epigenetic signature on the genes. These signatures can be temporary or permanent, and both types affect how easily the genes are switched on or off. Recent research demonstrates that there may be ways to reverse certain negative changes and restore healthy functioning, but the very best strategy is to support responsive relationships and reduce stress to build strong brains from the beginning. Young brains are particularly sensitive to epigenetic changes. Experiences very early in life when the brain is developing most rapidly cause epigenetic adaptations that influence whether, when, and how genes release their instructions for building future capacity for health, skills, and resilience. This is why it's crucial to provide supporting and nurturing experiences for young children in the earliest years, right? Services such as high quality health care for all pregnant women, infants, and toddlers, as well as support for new parents and caregivers, can quite literally affect the chemistry around children's genes. Supportive relationships and rich learning experiences generate positive epigenetic signatures that activate genetic potential. And you probably didn't see this because this came out of Harvard. People might have a thought about that. Go research it somewhere else then, so you can have this information, right? And if you haven't seen the conversation around public schools fluctuate to that of all of these gender neutral conversations and ultimately changing the very identity and genetic components of who children are happening very early, then you miss the attempts and other places to change their genomes.
Wow, that's very telling, family. And hopefully everyone is taking from this conversation that we are at war, and it's up to us to circle the wagons and pick up the mantle. It's up to everybody that claims to be Israel, those that are in the church, those that are African, that's call yourself African American, call yourself whatever the hell you want. But it's all hands on deck when it comes to this. Now I'm going to put up a few of the comments, and we're going to circle the wagons and exit stage left because we're at 2 hours. I'm going to put up some of these comments. A maturity approach says, "What a gift I hear this day. This is so needed, my sister. Thank you, and my brother. Well, thank you, sis. And prayerfully, you pick up the mantle and get in contact with our sister. She's an awesome resource. She's reachable. She doesn't have the Boule mindset where it's about her. No, she has a love and heart for our children. And she's teaching us how we should be moving this hour. It's not by accident that she's doing this now when the biggest threat against our children and against our nation is right now. The book says Israel is my battle axe and weapons of war. You don't think the enemy knows this about you? Why has the enemy been studying you so? If they thought that you were nothing and that you were truly the bottom of the barrel and that you were, oh yeah, you're children of Ham, you're children of Canaan, let's just lead them to their devices. No, 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 sir, no, ma'am. What have they been doing? They have been waging war against you. Why? Because they know that you're the children of you're the children of the book. They know you, the people of the book. They know that you're the apple of his eye. They have known this since time immemorial. They rejoiced when they do. They rejoiced when they destroy Israel and the Israelites. They throw parties, parting gifts, have a grand old time. Sin. You create. How wicked is this? When you could Google African American being hung, trading cards or postcards. Who else was that done to? But family, I am imploring you I'm imploring you right now. I'm not going to put up any more comments. I implore you right now that whoever you know that's got bigger platforms, whoever you know that has a platform needs to have this sister front and center so that she can be teaching all the whole nation this information, right? The boule is not going to do it for you. Cesare Borgia is not going to fall out the sky and do it for you. We have to do it ourselves, and it starts with us. We know all of the problems. We know everything that they've done. We identify who the enemy is. We've done the threat assessment. Now the question is, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? There's enough information, there's enough greatness within Israel where we could turn this thing around in 2 years. There's enough greatness, there's enough profound excellence in Israel where we could turn this around in 1 year if we wanted to. If you say you tired of this is no different. What they do to our children in public fool is no different than Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown. And we are complicit in that because we continue to send our children to these wicked ass associated things. We continue to do it. Now it's time out for it. It's time out for it. It's time out for it, fam. So I'm going to let the sister have the last words and we're going to close out. Sis, I'm going to let you have the last words. We're going to close out and we'll come back again next week. We'll come back again next week at this same time. And listen, I know that when we do shows like this, I know going in, when we do shows like this, folks not going to stick around. Folks don't want to hear it because you know why? Everybody wants Sister Wise Society to do it. Okay, well, how about all of us get off our rump and do something? All right, so sis, you got the last words. Go ahead and take the floor.
So I want to share Isaiah 41:14 and through 16 as my last words.
Okay.
Fear not, you worm Jacob, you men of Israel. I will help you, says the Lord, and your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. Behold, I will make you into a new threshing sledge with sharp teeth. You shall thresh the mountains and beat them small, and make the hills like chaff. You shall winnow them, and the wind shall carry them away, and the whirlwind shall scatter them. You shall rejoice in the Lord and glory in the Holy One of Israel. And so if we know this is the character, nature, and likeness of the Most High, we need to move in a way that shows we believe that. And so I leave you with the admonition to keep our children safe, do what you can, move forward, and reach out to me for help. And peace and blessings to you all. Fear not.
And this has been another Salt of the Earth production.
It's like live.
Israel, it's not about getting saved, but it's about getting off your rump and getting busy. Kwame Yasharala.